This is the story of a man and his two daughters. He wants his daughters to become the best tennis players ever and is willing to sacrifice anything for that. Let's see if he succeeds in his plans. Welcome to Movie Recall. In today's video, we will be going through the 2021 movie King Richard. It's time to recall. Let's get started. Turn on subtitles and spoilers ahead. The movie starts and we see a family of 7. This is the family of a man named Richard who currently lives in California. He has 2 biological daughters and 3 stepdaughters. Richard is a former tennis athlete and wants his 2 daughters named Venus and Serena to become professional tennis players. The man goes here and there and begs the professional coaches to recruit his daughters into their academies, but he has no luck so far. His requests have been getting rejected for a long time, but the man does not lose heart. We see him taking his daughters to practice tennis in the park. As they practice there, they're approached by a group of bullies who throw insulting remarks towards his daughters. Richard tries to ignore them at first and tells his daughters to go wait for him in the car. The boys, however, do not stop, and Richard goes on to scold them for their behavior. They feel insulted and go on to beat up Richard in front of his daughters. When they get back home, his wife Brandy is waiting for them. We see that they are a big family and they have a small house. However, all of them are still happy. Richard then gets ready to go to work as he works as a security guard. Brandy works in the daytime as a nurse, and Richard works as a security guard at night, and this is how they make ends meet. Despite their parents having a really busy life, Brandy and Richard are happy together, and their daughters are also not affected by it. They are always doing well at school. One day, Richard again goes to a professional coach and tells him to recruit his daughters, but he is again out of luck. The man even goes on to insult him when he tells him that he is not going to be able to afford the professional coaching. Richard works tirelessly to find a professional coach for the girls, creating brochures and videotapes to advertise their skills, but has not had success. That night, Richard goes to the park where his daughters practice and thinks about what the coach said to him. The bullies from earlier return, and he ends up getting into a fight with them again. A few days later, Richard takes the girls to see a professional tennis coach, Paul Cohen, who is in the middle of practicing with John McEnroe and Pete Sampras. Despite his initial reservations, he agrees to watch the girls practice. As the girls play on, the coach gets really impressed by how talented and skillful they are. Paul then goes on to mention that the coaching costs a lot of money because they are professional coaches who coach the players in a proper way. Richard is again disappointed, but Cohen tells him that he can do it for free. However, he will just coach one of them since he is doing it for free. It is decided that Venus is going to be coached by Cohen. The next day, when they are about to leave for their first training session, Venus goes to her sister to try and comfort her, knowing that she is upset over not being able to go. She tells Serena that their dad will videotape the whole thing and that she can learn by watching the video later on. Richard does just that. He videotapes the whole training session and goes on to send it to his wife. Brandy is the one who trains Serena, despite not being a professional tennis player. Brandy does well at teaching her daughter, and it is all based on her sheer passion to see her daughter do well in the future. They watch the video and try to replicate the things Cohen tells Venus. One day, while Richard, Cohen, and Venus are watching a professional tennis match on TV, Cohen suggests Venus participate in the junior tournament. Richard gets excited and goes on to right away register his daughter for the tournament. Richard is optimistic. He wants his daughter to broaden her horizons as he wants more people to see her play, and that will create more opportunities for her in the future. Venus goes on to enter a lot of matches and stays undefeated. She starts making a name for herself as she is yet to be defeated, but Richard stresses to Venus and her sisters that they should remain humble despite their success. One day, when Richard comes home with Venus from practice, they're shocked to see the child protection team at their house. Upon asking, they are told that the authorities got to know that Richard has been forcing his daughters to play tennis every day. Richard is extremely frustrated at this, and he goes on to tell the authorities that he has never forced anything on his daughter. He adds that he is always helping his daughter achieve their dreams one day. Richard makes it abundantly clear to them that he is going to put in his all to make sure his daughters achieve their dreams, whether it is to become a doctor, engineers, or professional tennis players. When the officers are unable to find anything against the man, they think it better to leave right away. Venus's matches, on the other hand, go on. That day, Richard decides to take his whole family to watch their daughter play in the tournament. At Venus's tournaments, Serena also signs up to play, unbeknownst to Richard. When they are watching Venus, a man comes to Richard and tells him that he is really impressed by his daughter Serena, who is playing on the other court. Richard is shocked at this. He and Brandy right away go to that court and find their daughter playing in there. As they stand out there, Serena spots her father and gets ready for being scolded, but he does not say anything degrading to her. He rather tells her that he is there to support her. At the end of the tournament, Richard's daughters are the talk of the town. Venus wins first place and Serena is second. As both girls continue to succeed, the family is treated as outsiders among the predominantly white upper-class competition. The girls now start getting famous, and they are even invited to different places as an inspiration for the other kids. Serena and Venus often go to different schools to inspire the other children. Richard meets with high-profile agents, but fearing that his daughters will be taken advantage of, pulls them out of the junior circuit entirely. Cohen warns him that his decision will destroy the girls' chances to turn pro, but Richard is adamant. He then goes on to decide that Venus is not going to be training with Cohen anymore either. Richard now starts looking for another coach for his daughter. He now wants someone who can provide educational scholarship along with good training to his daughter. Coach Rick Mackey travels to California to see the girls play. Rick is really impressed by both of the girls and offers to take the whole family to Florida to move into his facility while he trains both girls. Rick goes on to offer Richard a job if he agrees to move to Florida with him. Richard agrees to move to Florida, but he has one condition. He tells the coach that his daughters will participate in any tournament only when they have his permission. Rick is now a little weirded out by the condition. He tells him that the girls' talent is going to get wasted if they are not allowed to enter tournaments. He adds that it was his plan to enter them into many tournaments because they will get more and more exposure and experience, and with that, there are going to be more opportunities. The discussion goes on for a while and it ends with them deciding to move to Florida, and Richard also gets to have his way. Since Richard said that the girls will not play juniors, instead they keep training and attending school like normal little girls. Rick now starts getting a little restless because he does not understand what Richard is planning. It has been a long time since the girls have been training, and they have improved a lot. What use is all that training if they are not even allowed to enter a tournament? In the ensuing 3 years, questions arise from the media and from Rick about Richard's strategy with the girls and his desire for media exposure. That day, Venus comes to Rick and tells him that she now wants to turn pro. She adds that she wants to participate in the West Classic tournament in Oakland. Rick goes to Richard and tells him about the tournament. At first, the man refuses to let her take part in the tournament, but after much persuasion, he ends up agreeing to let his daughter play. However, when he is watching TV that night after dinner, he reneges, worrying that his daughter will suffer a similar fate to Rick's pupil Jennifer Caparati, who is allegedly suffering from burnout and has been arrested for drug possession. Richard decides that his daughter is not entering the tournament, and the next day, the girls do not even show up for the practice session. Rick goes to their place to ask what's the matter. He tells them that they should be burning the midnight oil as they are going to enter a tournament soon. But Richard bursts his bubble when he tells them that his daughters are not going to enter any tournament, they are just going to focus on their studies and enjoy life as normal teenagers do. Richard tells the man that he does not want to burden his daughters, he does not want them to be depressed. They could very much end up like Jennifer, who got depressed and started using drugs. Rick, however, tries to make the man understand that Venus is a strong girl and that she is nothing like Jennifer. He also adds that it is really important for her to enter that tournament. Rick decides to leave while Richard still says no to him. When he enters his house, he finds his wife unhappy. Brandy goes on to tell him that he does not get to make all the decisions for her daughters. She adds that they are talking about Venus, so Venus also gets to have a say in this. She tells him that she does not like the fact that he is always making the decisions for the girls without even asking them about it. Now, on top of everything, this decision strains Richard's relationships with Venus, Brandy, and Rick. Brandy tells her husband that if he kept acting like that, his daughters are going to start keeping their distance from him and they are going to grow tired of him. Upon hearing this, Richard realizes that maybe he has been doing it all wrong. He realizes that he has been overprotective of his daughters. That evening, Venus is training a lot in the court when she is approached by her father. He goes on to tell her why he has been so protective of them all of these years. He then reconciles with Venus, agreeing to let her play in the upcoming Bank of the West Classic in Oakland, California. Before the tournament, the family meets with a Nike executive who offers them a major sponsorship deal worth $3 million. Rick urges them to accept, but the family collectively agrees to decline, believing that once Venus begins to play, she will attract more lucrative offers. Richard also asks Venus to think about it, and she also says that they are just offering her the money because of her fame from her previous performances. She is getting started again, so she is going to perform again, and only then should people judge her. She does not want to be judged on the basis of her past performances. The big day arrives. Venus has her first professional match. At the beginning, her opponent has the upper hand, but when Richard sees his daughter, he thinks that she is too stressed about winning the match. He tells her to just have fun in there and stop worrying about the outcome of the match. He just wants her to enjoy the experience. She goes in there and with a more relaxed mindset, the girls perform well and end up winning her first professional match. Venus is the talk of the town, and both her family and her coach are over the moon. When Nike sees the girl winning, they go on to increase their bid from $3 million to $4 million. Rick keeps telling the family to take the offer, but when Venus is asked about that, she still goes on to reject the offer. Richard notices his daughter Serena staring at the tennis court where Venus won her first professional match. Richard thinks that his daughter could be upset. He goes on to tell her that he believes in her. He tells her that he is sure Serena is going to become the greatest tennis player ever. Venus comes in as a heavy underdog in her next match against top-seeded Arantxa Sanchez Vicario. Venus takes the first set and leads in the second before Vicario takes an extended bathroom break, an apparent act of gamesmanship. Sanchez Vicario recovers to win the second set and the match. Richard and Brandy comfort a dejected Venus, telling her to be proud. As the family leaves the stadium, a large crowd of supporters is waiting to cheer her on, and Rick tells Richard that several major shoe companies are anxious to meet with Venus. An epilogue reveals that 9 months later, at the age of 15, Venus would sign a contract with Reebok for $12 million. She would go on to win Wimbledon 5 times and become the first African-American woman to be ranked #1 in the world during the Open era. Serena, as her father predicted, is shown to have become the greatest tennis player ever. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get new movie recaps.